Welcome to Strong Inside, Conversations with Two School Psychologists, the podcast where we look beneath behavior to better understand kids, families, learning, and ourselves.
And I'm Maureen Sullivan. I'm a practicing school psychologist in Westchester County, New York. I'm also a certified neurodivergence coach and founder of Strong Inside. I've spent nearly 30 years helping students, families, and schools navigate learning, behavior, emotional challenges, and frankly, the school systems.
And I'm Marie, also formerly known as intern. Now I'm becoming a practicing school psychologist and executive functioning coach. So together, we wanted to create a place where parents, educators, and really anyone who cares about kids could better understand what's happening beneath behavior. We're so glad you're here. That went really well. Okay, so just to get us started, we're going to talk about why we actually started this podcast. Maureen and I have been working together during my internship year, and a lot of the conversations that we had been having, I thought could really be beneficial to parents out there who are having the same kind of struggles that we see, kids are having in the schools. A lot of the times, interactions with parents are just phone calls at school, if something has happened. So this is really a chance for us to get a little bit more conversational and provide some good information together from both of our perspectives on what's really happening. So this is kind of like behind closed doors.
And Marie is bringing me into the current century, introducing me to podcasts.
Yeah, I had really loved podcasts. There's a few ones that are school psych specific that I have learned so much from, and also listening to Maureen sometimes feels like I'm listening to a podcast. So I felt like this would be really, really good to actually just start recording our conversations.
I remember when I learned about ChatGPT this year, and Marie came into my office and gave me all this great information about a student we were prepping for. And I said, wow, that was amazing. That's what I would have done. That's what I would have said. And I saw this sweet smile, and it was, well, I asked ChatGPT, and that's when I realized I would be obsolete soon because there's ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I introduced you really to the whole thing.
Yep. That seems like a lifetime ago.
It does. It really does. Okay, so maybe we could just talk about a little bit about who we are, maybe why we joined the field. It's funny, I had just seen something yesterday about how school psychologists sometimes stumble into the field, like not really something that's well known. I don't think I really knew about school psychology until I started studying psychology, like in undergrad.
Right.
So how did you get into school psychology?
So it's sort of funny, just made me think about that. I think initial interest going all the way back to middle school actually was psychology, but probably what we used to call in the dark ages abnormal psychology. And I actually had very wonderful opportunities to work in hospital settings and residential treatment settings. And I would say it was into my first year of graduate school that I had the epiphany that if you truly want to make an impact, you've really got to be in the child's milieu. You've really got to be with them day to day. And I have been blessed to have a practice in school where I can impact my students almost every day. That doesn't mean a full session, but I can put eyes on them, impact them, support the family in a way that someone outside of school can't. So it's sort of a cheat. But it is the secret to why I think we have so much success. We have them 5 days a week, and learning is their job, and it can be a very difficult time if there is something getting in the way. And I think my passion has continued, probably in part influenced by the fact that I happen to have had two children, neurodivergent children, who are all grown now. And wow, did I learn? raising them. And if you want your passion to get even more real, have children with learning challenges. One of my children is super bright with dyslexia, and the other one has ADHD. So I knew firsthand, I think I knew before, that when a child is struggling in school, we only see the tip of the iceberg when they go home. What we do or don't do can make or break the family's night and the family's opportunity to bond. And so I'm always able to think what's happening here is going to impact that.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be mindful, because families have a right to have peace and a nice dinner and not battle over homework all night long.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about you? I want to know, how did you stumble into it?
Yeah, it's so funny. The internet. Really, the short answer is the internet. I knew that I wanted to work with kids for my whole childhood into adolescence. I just knew that I was going to be a helper. That's always kind of how I was described. Actually,
Love that.
When I was like a little kid, I said to my parents that I wanted to be an advice giver.
Like Lucy from Peanuts.
Yep. So that was the first part with my booth. Yeah. So I knew that I wanted to work with kids. I think as I got into adolescent psychology, just kind of made sense for me, because I took a class in high school, just a basic psychology class, and fell in love. And then when I got into college, I started doing some internship experiences, ABA with children with autism, completely fell in love with that. But I also knew that I liked how the brain worked, and I liked knowing the science behind the brain and why people did the things that they did, which was kind of behavior, but I really loved that more, I don't want to say clinical, but I liked the science. And so then I was like, oh, neuropsychology seems cool. And through searching, because then also, like you said, getting to see the kids every day is such a beautiful way of getting to know who you're working with, rather than just, like one session a week or every two. It can, it just feels like you don't know them as well. So I one day went to the internet at the end of my undergraduate career and just said, how can I work with kids, do things that involved the science behind the brain, because I didn't think that teaching was really right for me. How can I be one-on-one? And then a YouTube video of school psychology popped up, and then I said, wow. And it really did click. I remember the moment so vividly. And then I just started looking at programs right away.
I don't think you ever explained it to me like that. That's wild.
Yeah, I don't think I did, actually.
That's more like research than stumbling.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I didn't stumble. I did
a stumble through the internet.
I took a stumble.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And every person you've worked with so far thinks that's a blessing. So that's a beautiful stumble through the internet. I
am so happy that this is what I found. Yeah, absolutely.
And so when we met, you were already coaching. You were already working with families with different challenges in their homes.
Yes, that's right. Because I knew, that it was something I was interested in, and it was a good way for me to practice before coming in to my actual career. Yeah. And I had been making some connections with families, but honestly, what you have taught me is so different than how I had started out my coaching. My approach at first was very much like, okay, we're gonna, look at your homework and make a list. And then we'll see how that goes and see if you check off the list. And then once you started, and from seeing you in school and from what you started telling me in our conversations, like figuring out that the emotional regulation part of it is so much more important, I think, than is really seen. Like there's so much happening under the surface of executive function. So then about halfway through the year, when that really started to click for me, and also seeing that in our students that we were working with, I changed my whole approach. And now I think I feel so much more confident going into sessions. I feel like I have such a better understanding of neurodivergent brains.
Yeah.
So it's all been really good. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can actually remember the look on your face when that moment clicked for you that this could be much more dynamic than I think Post-its and planners and all that are wonderful. We need them. I need them.
Mhm.
Other people may not. I need them. Technology scares me, but I need all of those concrete reminders and organizers. But if we don't acknowledge the anxiety that causes for kids and people who don't naturally go through life perfectly organized and planned and learning from their mistakes and ready to reframe and like move forward, it can be crippling. And the shame that comes with that isn't typically discussed or conveyed verbally. It comes out through behavior, right? So if you don't go in with a warm hug about that part, they're married. People who have executive dysfunction most often have emotional dysregulation. We can mask it, but it's going to come out somewhere. And I think the kindest thing and the more, forget being kind, but the most efficient and effective thing we can do is go right for that. What is that behavior communicating? What happens inside when you consistently told you're failing at something, or you're failing at it because you get the feedback? It's super important.
Yeah, and especially the age group that we're working with, that we worked with this year, that their self-esteem is so important. So for context, we were in middle school. We should say that. And self-esteem, I mean, so much is happening. Like everybody remembers how intense middle school can get. So building up their self-esteem is like just a top priority, I think, because it is so lasting for their lives.
Yes. I don't know. Can you think back to middle school and remember something negative that happened? Because I can.
Totally.
And I could probably go back and that's far longer stretch for me, but it's such a blessing. The internet in many ways is such a blessing. I've had families and kids contact me that I worked with so long ago, like they have kids now, and the reflections and the things they remember, and I try to remember all of it. I think I can remember the emotion of it more than, the actual memory. It is such a tough time, and kindness is free. And skill develops over time. The more skills you have, the more confidence you have to say, this behavior is communication. Let's think about why it's happening. And the more we can help. And I think the families recognize that and come back. And for me, there's no sweeter hug than hearing, I remember you did this, you changed the way things happen. And when they graduate from high school, it's like all of those memories, and it looks like they've transcended it. They're past it. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think when you start to build skills early, then it sets kids up. Like the earlier, the better.
Absolutely. And the reframe, right? And maybe we can stop some kids from entering. We all have learned a little bit about cognitive behavior therapy, right? And kids who have negative experiences in school walk in the next day holding that, right? And so that lessens what they can learn. It lessens who they can become friends with. It changes their social circle. It drives them to peers that perhaps wouldn't be the best fit for them.
Yeah.
It is like linchpin theory, right? It's that one thing that impacts so many other pieces. And I think parents know that. That's why parents fight for their kids to get help early.
Yeah,
it's not just the skill of learning, it's all of the other pieces of your life that it impacts.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully we can help out with that. I feel like this year I feel so much more confident pinpointing kind of what the problem is. I know, isn't that like the goal? And now I'm going into high school, so now that'll be different, a different set of problems. But
and we should say that you've coached from middle school up to high school, college.
Yeah, the range is.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, because people will come in with different foundational levels of skill. I mean, some high schoolers, I feel, that I'm giving them some insight maybe into what is happening in their brain. And then in some 7th graders, I feel like I can approach it a similar way too. It really is so individualized also.
Yes, there are high schoolers, college students that I coach that have skills similar to middle schoolers. They're uneven. Everyone is different. If you meet a person with neurodivergence, you've met a person with neurodivergence.
Yeah.
I suppose that's true for the world. But I think more so for more typically developing learners, there is a developmental path that we can predict what's going to happen. But so many topics can come off of what I just said, but it just makes me think about this newer way that we're looking at autism with the levels 1, 2, and 3. I know we're doing something to concretize and communicate what's going on with the student, but you really can't.
No.
You really can't until you sit down and meet the student and start to listen and ask questions.
Yeah.
And go on their journey with them. And I think that's truly what makes, our coaching different, is that we're spending so much time trying to figure out first and understand first before we start to teach the skills.
And never
inciting shame, always being mindful, because no one learns when they feel shame.
No, definitely not.
No one has a good day when they're feeling ashamed, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I was just saying, always acknowledging that behavior is communication.
Yes, that's basically what I was going to say too. Yeah, I think it is really important to know the child and to take that time. I mean, I feel like now when I am meeting a student for the first time, I'm not really thinking about skills until, at least a couple of sessions in, because I don't know really where to start. I think I heard this a lot in graduate school too, is that we have to meet students where they are, right? And I think, I heard that so much, and but
what does it really mean though, until you're in person?
Exactly. It really does make the biggest difference in the world to not start at, this is where you should be hitting, without, and just because you are a certain age, a certain learning profile, and not taking the time to actually understand what's happening in the kid's mind. That's so important.
I'm laughing a little bit right now because and I can't wait until you come back and have this experience and share with me. I feel like a grandma, and it'll be so wonderful. But to have an intern is a really wild experience, right? Because I really sort of work alone. You notice that people are in and out of my office, in volume. But when I work with the kids, I go to another place, even this far into my career. And I might be singing, dancing. I might be jumping on furniture. I could get on the floor, be rolling, role playing. Any number of things will happen because that's what I'm trying to do, right? I'm meeting them where they are. And I don't have an awareness of doing it. It's just what I do. And so the first time you realize someone's watching you and they're kind of giggling, it's like, oh, wait, other people don't do this, I guess.
Right. Yeah, because I'm on the other side of the room watching you roll on the floor and and yell with the kids.
But the kids light up, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh my God.
So that is the biggest gift for me in the world.
Yeah.
For that moment, we're not in a stress place. We're pairing.
Exactly.
And I call it pairing, and that's a behavioral concept, a strategy that a lot of people don't know the value of.
Pairing. Yeah, it makes them accessible.
So did I tell you what pairing was, or did you just learn it by watching me?
I'm sure that we talked about it, but I also feel like so much was happening, especially at that first part of the year, that there wasn't time to talk about it. So I think I just watched you, be silly and then see the kids light up and then just pour out exactly what was wrong. And then I started to follow and noticed how quickly, what a difference that makes. They tell
walls come down.
The walls come down. Yeah.
But that's how you know you've properly paired. I mean, that's the way I use it. So I wish I could have paired better with my own children than I do with the children at school. I know I'm at work, I have a task to accomplish, and I know that if I pay upfront with pairing, and of course my heart wants to because they're just utterly
so
delicious.
Yeah.
It is worth that those 2 sessions, or finding them in the hallway, knowing where their classes are, bumping into them, getting their t-shirts and knowing what's going on, and just spending that time in what they love.
Yeah.
Pays millions forward, and the walls come down and the work can start. And I think that's a huge difference. That's a huge leg up we have over the clinical world.
It is.
And for people who, want to sit behind a desk, I don't know you're getting in there as fast and as well as you can if you really get silly.
Yeah. It's always better to get silly.
And the most buttoned up kids still like to get silly. They just have to trust. They have to trust behind closed doors.
Yes, exactly. Right. As long as, they're not being seen except for by us and we're trusted. Totally.
You see them in my office, watch the glass window, and then I
pull the privacy down. Yep. And then I also think because we've had that experience as coaches, even though we are seeing them, once or twice a week in that more traditional like session type of way, I do feel that I'm kind of doing both. Like I can squeeze in the pairing, in between things like, big assignment is coming up and they're like, oh, and I just go, oh, I know it's terrible, right? Like you can get silly in
validate.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Don't agree. Validate. The feelings are real. The feelings are real.
And imagine how big, a final project feels to somebody who, doesn't have that internal system. I mean, that's why we're there.
Yes. I can in fact imagine that. And it doesn't feel good.
It does. It's not great.
It does not feel good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, should we do one real life example before we go, or did we sort of do that?
I feel like we have been doing it throughout. I mean, is there anybody from your sessions that you feel like any good stories?
Maybe something just in general. And then, for future podcasts, we will definitely use a concretized example without names, places, and that we think would be helpful for families, practitioners, anyone.
Yep.
But one of the most common things I think I hear is, you don't know what he's like when he gets home. You're telling me this about school. Yeah, you're making all this progress, but when he gets home,
right.
And it's a war. I know because I lived that. I think that's a elementary school, middle school, and high school, and I think it's relatable to a lot of people. Do you remember that happening? Yeah, actually, I can think of a case where, in essence, the child masked throughout the day, went home, and really struggled, and I think it was painful for the family to watch. And so when that comes up, we unpack that with a lot of families. We talk about what they're assuming, right? Because what the family's assuming is what they're thinking, right? And what we think impacts the way we behave and what we say, right? So we try to go to the assumption first and try to neutralize that. And then start to teach what might be happening underneath. And I think that's what a lot of our podcasts will be about.
Yeah.
Like, what does the parent know about sensory integration? What do they know about emotional regulation? What do they know about the brain-body connection? And do they understand the difference between masking and coping? And the truth is that is kind of good adaptive behavior if you can hold it together at school and then fall apart at home.
Right.
It's not what we want for you, but on the surface, that's useful, right? Because we all have to go do things when we're not having a good day, right? But supporting families and unpacking that, understanding that, teaching around some of the elements I just discussed, just as an example of the kinds of things that we'll be talking about each week or every other week, or however often Marie tells me that we're going to do this.
Yeah, I think we have so many ideas. And even from this conversation, there's so many topics that you can branch off.
I'm trying not to be tangential. It is very challenging for me.
It's hard, yeah, because usually now we would be on the 10th subject. Yeah, it is. And there's just so much, I think, obviously nobody is taught, unless you went to school for it, about all of these different things that you mentioned, like the sensory integration. I mean, you can feel, some people don't like the certain type of fabric on their clothing, but they don't really have the words for that. And they don't understand, a neurodivergent child, how big of an alarm that can set off. I mean, people just don't know.
Yeah. And most of us, think that there are 5 senses.
Right.
And the senses that are often impacted in a life-changing way for people with neurodivergence are not just those 5 senses. We're talking about like proprioception and vestibular input. School life can wreak havoc on a nervous system that is dysregulated and has uneven, we all have uneven sensory development, but that reminds me, and I will do my best to be harnessed and not tangential, but we hope to recommend books.
Yeah.
Easily accessible books, not clinical texts, things that are written for parents, games that align with skill deficits or areas for growth across all skill areas, things to do at home that are natural, that don't look like school.
Yep.
So ways to help your children that fit nicely into your home.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things, actually.
Yeah, that's going to be a really good. We're hoping to compile an actual list and even maybe links that you could just click and
easy.
Done.
One thing, and I'm getting tangential. One epiphany I was having last night when I was thinking about all the families that I coach, how busy they are.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I was that busy when my kids were, but wow, scheduling minutes.
Yes.
Minutes to fit in, and the value that they have on helping their children, that you're scheduling those minutes to fit me in between, and it's summer and jet lag. And I met with this beautiful child yesterday. He was still on time from halfway country across the world.
Oh, wow.
Country halfway across the world. And he worked so hard with me.
Right.
So people want to improve their skills. They want a successful life. They want to be happy and healthy. Yeah. And I feel pretty lucky that when they choose me, but I'm in awe of the busy schedules.
Yeah. And it's our job really to be as accessible, I think, as possible to accommodate for that, because lives are with children.
Help, not hurt.
Help, not hurt. Yeah.
So I think we've talked about a little bit of what we will do moving forward. And I don't know, maybe, I think you've talked about topics that we'll talk about: sensory processing, emotional regulation, executive functioning, college transition. That's a big piece of my coaching business that's growing right now. And I think it's on point. Even the schools that are developing programs to support, there's so many things that can be prepared for, concrete, practical things, and then also the more fluid problem solving, getting to know your brain, knowing what you need, and the problem solving around the things that that are not practical, like laundry. Yeah. Or taking your medications.
Eating on time.
Getting hangry. A dysregulated body is definitely not helped when we don't follow routines.
Yeah. And college can really be a chance to establish routines, but also any routine that you've had previously, if you're living in college, is kind of out the window. I mean, things are so different when you get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all very exciting.
Yeah, definitely going to speak a lot on that. We have lots of ideas. Also, I should mention that, once we start to get a little bit of an audience and people join, we would love to hear questions that parents have. And then we can speak on those while we're chatting, because really this is all for parents. So the more questions that people come in with and topics, then we can.
Yep. I have a favorite thrift shop I was in recently, and one of the owners came up to me, and she likes to talk to me about her grandchild. And so I have been giving tips and making notes for her daughter, the mother of this child with autism, who's 5 now. And I was very impressed. The mother acted on some very basic information about the law and eligibility and entitlement, just to help them start good services. From me to grandma to daughter, right? And just with that, this mother was able to, for a year, get her son on the right path. I was pretty impressed. More recently, grandma stopped me, heartbroken, trying not to cry. Things aren't going so well. There's a lot of aggression behavior, some fear for the other kids in the family. And so I gave her some tips about how to get to the help she needs more quickly than the route that they were on.
Yeah.
She turned to me with sadness and I think anger on her face. Parents don't know that. Parents didn't know that. And I think that's part of why I said, yes, I will do this podcast, because parents should know.
They should know.
Simple tips they should know.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to, go through 10 sessions with me when I didn't realize that you didn't know that simple tip that I could give you. And so this hopefully is a great opportunity for people to pick up some of those tips.
It's so true. I mean, even, in school psychology, we're dealing with the special education world. I mean, IEP meetings, 504s, those terms and things. I mean, I had to go to 2 years of school, and after a full year of internship, I still don't fully comprehend the whole.
What is the role of your psychiatrist versus the school psychologist and the developmental pediatrician and versus the BCBA and the SLP and the OT? So we will be inviting hopefully every member of the team on here, so people can really get a concrete understanding of what they do and how they connect to the whole process.
I love that idea, because also a lot of the times, you're only hearing from the behavior therapist. I mean, maybe that's not the greatest example because they do parent training sometimes, but a member of the team, sometimes it's like this, maybe the second time you've talked to them at the table, at the IEP meeting, and they just say their spiel. Maybe parents have questions. I feel like I see glazed over eyes all the time, because how can you take in that much information?
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, a veteran, my son's been out of school a while, but it is like an out-of-body experience to sit at a CSE meeting when people are discussing the love of your life.
I mean, talk about emotional regulation and executive function. I mean, if you're in such an emotional state, I mean, it's your kid. How can you comprehend, we're throwing numbers and terms at you? That is really the heart of
things that don't sound kind, right?
And things that don't sound kind. Yeah, it's so true. I mean, you can't hear really anything else.
Yeah, it's true. I can tell you firsthand it's true. And I think of like the brain body connection and tips for parents there too. So there's hopefully so much we can offer.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
An easier process for people, for parents and families.
Definitely. Okay, I feel like, is that a wrap?
That's a wrap.
Amazing.
And thank you so much for getting me to do this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much this is really exciting. I think this is going to be good.
And I guess I'll just say in closing, you're going to remember that every behavior has a story. Understanding comes first, skill second, and shame never helps. Thank you for spending time with us today. And until next time, stay strong inside.